Hey guys, Volume 10 of The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess is here. I'm on take 3. How do I even review these anymore? They're so good. It feels like every volume I just get to say over and over again how good it is. All right, so what I'm going to try to do is uh, almost all of the good things I've said about previous volumes, they're true of this one. So what's different? What's neat is in previous reviews, I've said if Akira Himekawa can land this plane, this could be one of the best series ever. Not like best video game comics ever. This could be one of the best comics ever, full stop, period. And I think they're going to land the plane because all of the crazy original ideas they had that are not in the video game, they are bringing those back in, wrapping everything up with a pretty bow, and they're sort of justifying all of the new characters and concepts they've added to their series. So let's flip through it before I start going on a stream of consciousness and rambling for 3 minutes and then just pausing and just having an existential crisis of how do I even talk about it. All right, so first off, original characters. Link has felt guilty since he was a little kid because he's blamed himself. He thought he was responsible for the death of his friends. He discovers that he didn't kill them. He accidentally sent them to the Twilight Realm. So after carrying all this shame and guilt on his back, he finally catches a break. And these characters get to join in the fight for Hyrule, and they get some nice little personality moments. They fit with the broader cast. In addition to these original characters, the NPCs from the games actually feels like their presence is justified. It feels like they're contributing. I think in the video game, you like walk up to Ganon's castle, you unlock it, the cutscene plays, you run in and you kill Ganon, right? And it doesn't seem like the NPCs do a whole lot. But here, Ganon unleashes a massive attack of his army on everybody, and they're like chopping people up. It's really dark and edgy and older teen, which fits with the vibe of everything. But characters other than Link feel like they get to contribute to this fight. The payoff, and this is a cutscene from the game, is that Midna, an impish princess from the dark world, a literal creature of darkness, has to work with Link, the pure-hearted hero, to defeat evil. So it's kind of like it's contrasting the idea of good versus evil as opposed to light versus dark, where these creatures, they live in the darkness, they have a dark aesthetic to them, but that's not the same as being evil. However, Midna has always flirted with the darkness. When she's introduced, she's very cynical, she's very cruel, she's sadistic, and she seems to really hate the people of the world of the light, and in some ways with cause, because the people of the world of the light basically dump all of their crap into the world of darkness and all of the criminals into the world of darkness, and she's had enough of that. Over the course of her journey, she's basically fallen in love with Link while being transformed by Link's goodness. She's become less cynical. She's become more selfless, but she's still a creature of the darkness. And the payoff for this is they assembled these relics from the Twilight Realm, and comedically, the second they assembled that, this thing's way too big and powerful for her to understand. She looks ridiculous in it. She's a little kid basically playing with something she doesn't understand, but it gives her incredible power to fight Ganon. So it's kind of like the question of the One Ring, but in Tolkien, there's no way to use the darkness of the One Ring against Sauron. To use the One Ring is to be corrupted by it. This is presenting a counter idea, which is that it might be possible to use darkness without becoming evil yourself. But as soon as she does that, she's becoming a monster, right? So it's not as simple as just because you use dark magic. Oh, that's hunky dory. So Midna's going mad, and this is a payoff for another original theme Akira Himekawa have set up in early volumes. So one of the problems the people of the Twilight Realm have is that the people of Hyrule think that they just assume they're demons. Oh, look, they're black and scary looking. They got scary magic. Twilight's spooky. We got to stay away from that. They're some kind of demons or something. So the payoff is they all see her transform into this and think, well, gosh, she must be some kind of demon or monster or something. And using this power Midna comes very close to going mad and killing her best friend, but she awakens at the last moment, and the mob wants to kill her. Now, Link What's interesting about Link is he's not just a pure-hearted hero. He's been motivated by shame, guilt. He's exhibited pride, and his pride has caused his fall. So Midna's actually seen him at his worst. She's seen him like collapse, almost dead into nothing. She's seen him screw up, and she's seen him get himself back up and man up. And basically, ever since that defining moment, Link went from being a boy to being a man. Ever since that kind of like cataclysmic event, he's had this look on his face, and he's been a man on a mission to murder the crap out of Ganondorf. Right? Like, how could she not fall in love with him? But even though she's seen Link at his darkest, his heroic nature appeals to her. It awakens her. They're both characters who are in the middle of darkness and light, and the kind of like ordinary people of Hyrule, who they're just not familiar with what Midna is. They don't understand her. They have to learn the difference between someone who looks different, someone who's just isn't part of your world or part of your culture, and an existential threat like Ganondorf, who wants to kill them all. And there's this really great line where one of the NPCs, again, one of the characters who doesn't have much of a role in the game, she has this great line where she says, you're ashamed of being afraid of Ganon, so you're looking for a scapegoat. You're looking for someone you can safely oppose. Let's jump ahead a little bit. So at this point, Midna has gone from being like a teasing, sarcastic, sadistic sort of person to being like an awakened and renewed person. She's clearly fallen in love with Link, and so as she is kind of injured, and he entrusts her to his friends while he goes off like a self-sacrificial idiot to fight Ganondorf and die himself, she doesn't want him to go. She wants to be with him in the last moment. All right, here you go, internet. You degenerate. I see your degenerate fan art you guys draw. All the crazy lolly anime people, they like Midna because she's like 3 feet tall. She's supposed to be like a princess who's under an enchantment. She's supposed to be over 18, dudes. All right, so fine, you degenerates. There you go. Hope you're happy. She's in love with him. All right. Jumping ahead. So this is an example of a change where I kind of miss how it was done in the game, but I'll forgive it. So in the video game, you encounter this mini boss over and over again, and by the end, after you defeat him, he says, "I've only ever followed the strongest person. That's all I've ever known." And then he just rides away and he doesn't fight you. And you kind of have like this quiet moment where you think, I guess I changed his mind by beating him. That's odd. And then it really sticks in your memory. So in their version, of course, this is made less implied and subtextual and more explicit and textual. The king of the goblins, or Bokoblins, or whatever they're called, he has been inspired by Link's strength and courage, so he switches sides. He shows up at the last minute and helps out Link's friends, and he declares that I follow the hero Link. I follow the strongest person. This is a setup. Strength is going to be an important theme later. So after that sequence, we get Ganondorf's epic evil villain speech. Now, maybe one of the problems with Ganondorf is he's kind of the most stock villain ever. He's the bad guy. You got to fight a final boss at the end, and he's got an evil speech about how he's going to take over the world. They do a couple really interesting things with him. So the first is Ganondorf is literally power. His Triforce is the Triforce of power. His entire worldview is about power. The Goblin King believed in power. He followed Ganon because he thought Ganon was the strongest of all. Link persuaded him. Link, with his courage, changed his mind and changed the way the Goblin King thinks about strength. So it's basic. Ganon's speech is basically a Friedrich Nietzsche will to power, I will become God speech. And there are a couple details that he ties into the world that illustrate it perfectly. So he explains that the people of the Twilight Realm were people who rebelled against the gods, and they were punished by being trapped in this dark world, but they lacked the power to defeat the gods. He declares that he has this power, and once he has this power, he will make the gods' will his own will and rule as a kind of king god himself. Who cares about good and evil? Power is the only thing that matters in the universe. When I assert my power over everything, I basically become the god of this world. Now, what was the important thing? Okay. Here's what's neat about this is taking a kind of lore aspect idea of the game. So, if in the really, really early games, this was Link was clearly supposed to be like a Christian Crusader knight character, and there was even concept art of him praying at a cross. In later games, Nintendo decided, let's make Hyrule our own weird fantasy world. So it still has a little bit of the Christian visual inspiration. The Triforce is vaguely reminiscent of the Trinity, but it's really its own thing. It's not monotheism. It's weird. It's either polytheism with three gods, or in some games it's one god. I don't get it, but this kind of works. So in the games, the Triforce represents literally the presence of the gods on Earth. And if you get the Triforce, you get your wish granted. Okay, that makes sense. You get your wish granted. And what Ganondorf explains is that if you get your wish granted, what that basically means is it's like sort of like predestination, or the will of the gods itself shapes around your will. So Ganondorf is very much about becoming a god. And Link has this really interesting declaration. You shouldn't be playing with the will of the gods. And when he hears Ganondorf's argument, Link's response is, well, if the will of the gods is for you to become king, then I'd oppose even the gods. And what's interesting about that is it's kind of a sacrilegious statement. If the gods are representative of deity, of the divine, Link's basically saying, I'm willing to fight the gods if that's what it takes. But on the other hand, he's not saying, I hate the gods, I'm going to defeat the gods and become gods myself. Who he's really defying is Ganondorf, because Ganondorf is the one who is a blasphemer. Ganondorf's the one who wants to set himself up as a god on Earth. So really, Link isn't opposing the will of the gods. He's opposing Ganondorf's twisted will to power idea. Basically, he's denying the premise of Ganondorf's whole argument. If you think that being strength is what makes you God, fine, I'll kick your ass. Then tell me what a god if you're a god after that. So, in a previous volume, Ganondorf. Basically, it was a scene where he invited Zelda over for tea, and over a nice cup of tea, tried to explain his will to power, worldview to her. What's kind of clever about that is Link represents courage, so he has to kick Ganon's ass. Zelda represents wisdom, so her temptation is an intellectual one. Ganon doesn't kick her ass to try to demonstrate that he's right. He tries to win her over with false gentlemanliness and a conversation. Now, I wish they developed this a little bit more. This is in the video games. You just show up. Oh no, Zelda's evil. We gotta beat her. So their idea was to set this up with this interesting little debate between Zelda and Ganondorf, and we don't see why she turns evil. Did she succumb to his temptations or something? We don't really know. But our payoff is this is supposed to be the setup for why Zelda has become a sort of manipulated zombie creature. At the last minute, Midna regains her strength and arrives to save the day. And she kind of teases Link that, I knew you're such a goody two-shoes. I knew you wouldn't be able to kill the princess. And you can tell she's joshing him about it. So even though Link has won her over with his noble spirit, and she's a much better person than she used to be, she's still the same person. She's still got that little bit of a teasing nature to her, and she's still willing to kind of literally ruffle his hair and call him a goody two-shoes. But we're paying off another great setup. So one of the setups that's original to this series is that Midna and Zelda actually know one another from childhood. They used to communicate through a mirror, and Zelda's courtiers were afraid she was communicating with dark creatures, so they smashed the mirror and cut off that communication. So when Midna shows up to save Zelda, this is Midna rescuing a childhood friend who she was separated from because basically of the bigotry and misunderstanding between their two worlds. With Zelda released, Ganon, just like in the video games, he turns into a giant pig monster because he's always got to turn into a giant pig monster. But again, the writers add some really interesting ideas that add to this. So when Link encounters this monster, he realizes that Ganon is powered by hatred itself. The more Ganon hates something, and he's basically, according to the lore of the games, this is like a man who's become a literal demon. He was born hundreds of years ago. He's sort of existed in this permanent state of darkness, like an undead energy thing. Whereas Link was born a normal and had kind of lived a normal life for a while before everything went crazy. Sort of like Link is a reincarnation of an older hero, but Ganon is a undying zombie god thing. So when Link realizes that Ganon is powered by hate, he explains that if you're powered by hate, I'm powered by anger. If hate turns you into a beast, then anger turns me into one. With my fangs of anger, I will shred your undying hate and greed. So being a werewolf, turning into a wolf is like a metaphor for becoming a dark, savage animal. But this guy who is, at the one hand, this very simple, noble, heroic spirit who inspires people with his goodness, has a darkness in him. He and Midna is literally a creature who is a princess of a dark world full of sort of dark magic creatures, and Link is a boy with a darkness in him that he has to conquer. But his conquering it means he controls it and makes it part of himself. This evil curse to turn him into a wolf, he's turned that around and it's made him stronger. And it's a metal scene where he rips this pig into pieces with his teeth. I'll show you it. I will show you how edgy this gets. Look at that. He rips his heart out. Oh, ow, Sonic the Hedgehog. That's great. But it metaphorically works. Link, who has always been the noble young hero in all of these games and all of these books. In some ways, Twilight Princess it's the dark and edgy Zelda game, but the dark and edginess isn't just there for darkness and edginess. It's there to make this point that to beat a Ganondorf, Link had to beat the darkness in himself. By beating the darkness in himself, there's this sort of cumulative effect where he starts changing people around him when they see that, right? And it becomes like a tidal wave of good, crushing Ganon's godless, there is no good and evil, there's only power in those too weak to seek it, might makes right worldview. So I don't care. If the last volume of this is literally just like a gag manga and Mario shows up and knocks Link out with a hammer and beats Ganon himself, even that would not be enough to not make this one of the greatest manga series of all time. So I'll look forward to, I think volume 11 is going to wrap it up, unless they want to stretch it out and get a few bonus cutscenes to make a volume 12 or something. That's it. We got to end there. We don't need no stinking 20-minute videos. Number one Marmaduke fan. Love you guys. Catch you later.